Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The Woman King is a huge flop, and mainstream media, unfortunately, is choosing this hill to die on, defending it. Oddly enough, yeah, it's a very strange movie to defend because it does glorify the slave trade nation of Dahomey. But we have this: how Sony notched a number one $19 million plus weekend win with The Woman King. Just as an FYI. That's not a win. $19 million opening weekend is terrible. Really, really, really bad. Because this movie had a budget of about $50 million. $25 for marketing. That's $75 million you have to make. Plus theatre cuts as well. With $19 million opening weekend. Second weekend normal drop off. 50, 60%, anywhere in between. Something like that. You can see and understand now why mainstream media is simping hard for the movie, because obviously the studio would have contacted them. But also you can understand why Viola Davis and her husband, Viola Davis specifically, running her mouth over on Twitter, guilt-tripping people into watching it, which is just sad. People have, an encyclopedia at their hand, the phone, and Google, so they know what the film's actually about. And then her husband obviously saying nonsense like, well, if we made it actually historical, it would be a documentary. What? You can make a story that's historical without it being a documentary, you pleb. But anyway, like I said, mainstream media simping very, very hard for this film. So TriStar's The Woman King stayed on track with its Sunday AM estimate, coming in at $19.05 million. It's another great example of how Sony continues to win over adult audiences with non-tentpole fare. Pre-pandemic, TriStar had Little Women in December 2019, which posted a 3-day weekend of $16.7 million and legged out to $108.1 million worldwide. Now, I think that, loads of people, is there the potential that this film could do that? Yeah, sure, but there's such negative press surrounding it, I doubt it. There's no good word of mouth about this movie. Like, people are like, yes, a good movie, but it's also really crap and really bad about this, and this. So, no. And the Sony label had a summer sleeper with Where the Crawdads Sing, which debuted to $17.2 million and still going, now at $88.9 million domestic and $127 million worldwide. But Where the Crawdads Sing is an adaptation of a book, so that has inbuilt fanfare. But here we have it, and this is why we know it's been leaked, because Chairman and CEO of Sony Pictures, Tom Rothman, sent out the following celebratory email to staff about The Woman King. So the studio would have contacted Deadline. Dear colleagues, as the New York Times said in reference to The Woman King's success this weekend, it doesn't have to be all sequels and superheroes. Indeed, Tony and I have expressed congratulations and great appreciation to our immensely talented filmmakers Gina, Viola, Kathy, and their impressive teams of brilliant, diverse, above and below the line talent. We'd like to add such thanks to E1, TSG, everyone at Sony involved in the making and marketing of this groundbreaking film, and for all those inside and out of the company who shared in our belief. With a rare A+ cinema score, outstanding reviews, and an excellent start, the North American box office, we're well on our way. It's very gratifying to see our continued faith in creating stories for a wide range of theatrical audiences pay off. I'm sure you'll all share my deep sense of pride that such a historic film bears the Sony logo. Well done all. Excelsior. Just side note, this comment was strange. Diverse above and below the line talent? Weird comment to make, but alright. Anyway, how did Sony notch this win? As we told you, there was the trailer, which dropped over the summer, and the quick week of heat coming out of The Woman King's TIFF premiere. That's where the pick hooked initially 100% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes and raised its opening projections from 13 to 16 million. So there's that. And then they started doing all this other nonsense. So collaborating with various leading black film festivals to bring early awareness to the film. The festivals include American Black Film Festival in Miami, Mishu Film Festival in Los Angeles, Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival in Martha's Vineyard. where the Pick star and producer Viola Davis participated in a clips and conversation. I mean, it's just weird. It's strange, ladies and gents, that someone like Deadline is saying that $19 million is a win. It's not a win. It's really bad. But then what's perhaps not strange is, again, you get $19 million and you have people like Viola Davis and her husband, Julius Tennant, coming out and defending the film's historical revisionism, saying we have to take license, we have to entertain people. Again, there's taking license, but I don't think the same can be said. I don't think the same would be said if we're making a movie about Nazis defending, their way of life and trying to stop the Holocaust or something like that. It's just we wouldn't be doing this. Like, it's odd at all. It's very, very strange. There's not only that. I think what's important to highlight is that the individuals who have been making this film have actually come around and said it's the truth. This actually happened. So, no, it didn't. No, it didn't. Not even remotely. Stop trying to sell it as fact. Tell people the truth. But you can't sell it because that doesn't play into the narrative. And we know what the narrative is. It's this divisionism that people are trying to perpetuate and permeate through society. And, it's easier to sell a sort of I personally think it would be interesting to tell a story about a black slave that escapes the Dahomey. But that's not, in the eyes of the studio, something which can be marketed, black versus black. I highly doubt a studio head is going to want to greenlight that. It's more palatable for a studio head to greenlight a film about, blacks versus the slave trade. And I guess you could say, well, it is kind of black versus black in this film because it's the Dahomey versus the Oyo Empire. It's like, sure, with the crux of the sort of emotional journey being they look to stop slavery as well and white man bad alongside it. It's like, right. So you can see why this becomes a palatable thing to sell. Whereas to actually tell us... And what I think is so baffling about this film was it just didn't have to be made. Why did you write yourself into this weird situation where you've sunk $75 million into this film needlessly? It's so weird. But anyway, asked by Variety's Senior Awards editor Clayton Davies during a post-premiere interview for their thoughts on the pushback, Davies asserted, "First of all, I agree with director Gina Prince Bythewood saying that you're not going to win an argument on Twitter. We entered the story where the kingdom was in flux at a crossroads. They were looking to find some way to keep their civilization and kingdom alive. It wasn't until the late 1800s that they were decimated. Most of the story is fictionalized. It has to be. Because you chose to tell a story about a slave nation." In support of Davis's argument, her husband Tennant, who appears in the film as Moru, added, "We are now what we call edutainment." But you've not educated anyone, and this is what they then go on to say, which is nonsense. It's history, but we have to take license. It's not history. We have to entertain people. If we told a history lesson, which we very well could have, that would have been a documentary. Unfortunately, people wouldn't be in the theatres doing the same thing we saw this weekend. We didn't want to shy away from the truth. You did. The history is massive, and there are truths on that are there. If people want to learn more, they can investigate more. When you have youngsters not even being able to tell, like if I showed someone this, and I was like, "Tell me the time," right? Some kids wouldn't even be able to tell the time from an old watch. Not that it's an old watch, but you see what I mean. A first and second hand watch. Some kids wouldn't even be able to tell the time. And you're going to try and rely on those individuals by saying, well, if you want to know more about it, go and Google it. These people, unfortunately, like a lot of these people going to watch this film will be gullible. And I'm so glad that hashtag boycott the Woman King has been trending on Twitter. And no one can sit around and go and say they're racist because that's predominantly perpetuated by black people. So, good on you, basically. Good on you. Still responding to the initial question, Davis then went on to an unrelated tangent and recalled, "Part of the story that hit me as an artist was these women were unwanted. They were recruited between the ages of 8 and 14. They were the women who were not considered desirable. No one wanted to marry them. They were unruly. They were recruited by the king to fight for the kingdom of Dahomey. They were not allowed to marry or have children. The ones who refused the call were beheaded." That's also part of the story. Perfect. People really are being emotionally shifted. Davis said. I saw a TikTok video today of women in a bathroom of an AMC theatre, and I don't think they knew each other. They were all chanting and ruminating. That cannot be quantified by words. But you're selling them a lie. And you're glorifying potentially the people that brutalised the ancestors of the individuals watching this movie. It's just gross. It's distasteful. So no, this is a huge flop. Massive flop. And this is, you know, unless they change their marketing, it's one of those movies I personally believe deserves to flop. Because the whole movie's predicated on people being dumb. Because the studio's like, people won't research this. Yeah, we'll just greenlight it. $75 million, no worries. No.